Over the last 3 years, I've worked with 100 brands who make fat bikes almost identical to this. And yet after working with so many brands, I've never heard of this one until a couple months ago. And with a name like Puckipuppy, just kidding, that is Puckipuppy, that's got a name that I wouldn't easily forget. I don't know about you guys, but doesn't it feel like a new e-bike company's popping up every week? So with so many e-bike companies out there that pretty much make a bike just like this, I wanna know if these guys did anything different to make this stand out. You know, like a better price, better components. Is the ride, comfort, suspension all next level? Or if this is just your run-of-the-mill fat bike? Well, the first thing I wanna talk about is the price. This only costs $1,100, which puts it at the low end of a lot of fat bikes. I wanna take that price and look at what kind of gearing and components you get for it. The first thing I wanna talk about is the saddle, because this is one of my favorite things about this bike. It is super cushy, it is huge. There's comparison with my hands. There's a vent in the middle, so you get some airflow coming up, and they actually have these angled plastic things in there that help to bring the air up, which gives me a nice, lovely coolness in areas where coolness is not expected. Anyways, it is just one of the best saddles as far as comfort I've seen on a fat bike. So again, $1,100 is buying you a good saddle. It also buys you nice grips. They feel nice, they're wing tipped, feels like a grip that would be on something a little bit more expensive. You have a nice thumb throttle. Next to that is your standard SIS index shifter. I see those on $500 bikes and $2,000 bikes. You got a pretty small screen. The control pad is the only cheap feeling thing on the handlebars. You got a horn. There's a light switch. For the price, you actually have a pretty nice looking and bright headlight and a tail light. That does flare up when you hit the levers. Then you have up and down arrows to change the pedal assist levels. This does have 5 levels. I was surprised to see this, a turning derailleur. Usually you'd have a lower end derailleur for a bike in this price range. The pedals are actually pretty nice too. They're lightweight, a little bit larger, and they got spikes on them. Usually for an $1,100 bike, you would see some pretty flimsy and cheap feeling fenders. You don't really have that. I mean, they're flexible, but I've seen worse. Now the rack is pretty much as cheap as you can go. They didn't invest a lot of money in this part of the bike, and I'm okay with that because I never use this. And then another thing that I don't usually see on $1,100 bikes is a 60-mile range, which is what they say this has. Just for comparison, the Electric X Peak has a range of 55 miles, and the actual range rating of this is 30 to 60. So obviously depends on how you ride it and if you're a little chunky and stuff. In my experience, companies tend to go 2 ways with fat bikes. They make them with a more aggressive posture to tackle some off-road, or they make them like this, which is a much higher bike. I'm a 5'11" guy. I'm gonna try not to hit my head on this ceiling. I've got this saddle set to my position. I like to have a slight bend in my knee. And when I fully extend my arm, my back is almost straight. And so these types of bikes are gonna be for paid trails, for city driving, for commuting to work. And if you decide to commute to work, you're gonna get there fast, because this does top out at 28 miles an hour. Now you can only hit that if you're pedaling. If you're just using straight throttle, they've cut that off at 20 miles an hour, which I personally don't like. I like to have full access to the bike, whether I'm pedaling or the throttle. Now, when you are going that fast on pedal assist, it is a little bit noisy. I'm not surprised, because most bikes for around $1,000, they get loud. Now, earlier when I said this was more of a commuter bike, that doesn't mean that you couldn't take it off-road. I just personally wouldn't, because again of how high you're off the ground and with the upright posture. But again, you could, because it has a front fork suspension. You got some good travel. I wish they had an adjustment knob on this side, which they don't. It feels like those would be pretty easy to bottom out. Oh, just peeping and pooping and pooping and peeping. With most bikes that I've tried in this price range, the thing that bugs me the most about them is the motor reaction time. So let's test that out. With the throttle first, holding it down, release it, cuts off right away. I like that. Re-engage. That's actually pretty standard. That was like a half a second before it came back on. Now when pedaling, I'm on the 7th gear, stop pedaling, about the same cutoff time as the throttle was, but if I re-engage, that's about 3 revolutions before the power comes back on. Standard with most bikes that cost just over $1,000. So doesn't really concern me. Would I like a more reactive motor? Yes. Would I want to pay more money? Possibly. Would you? I don't know. All right, so what did you guys think? Did you think it was just another run-of-the-mill fat bike, or did it exceed your expectation? Because I'm gonna tell you now, it exceeded mine. There's some standard features on it, of course, but as far as power, speed, comfort, ride and feel, things like that, I thought it was much above other bikes for the same price. I've done a bunch of fat bikes in the same price range, so go check those out, and I think you'll understand why I thought it was a little bit above average. Thanks for watching, and take care.